When I was missing someone to have a child with, I picked up an S-level alpha by the roadside. The alpha was blind and had a limp, and apart from having a handsome face, he had no other advantages. After 6 months together, he recovered physically, and I got the child I wanted. So one afternoon, I quietly ran away and never went back. 9 months later, I ran into that familiar face at my daughter's full-month celebration. The next moment, I grabbed my daughter and ran. Who knew I'd collide with a man around the corner? He was holding my daughter gently, but his grip on my neck wasn't so gentle. Pregnancy's over. Can you handle it without an alpha's comfort? Borrowing me to seed your child? Bold move. 1. The bedroom, with the curtains drawn, was dim, barely allowing me to make out anything. I carried a tray, trying not to trip. I set the tray down on the table carelessly and went to the window to pull the curtains open. The next second, a pillow came flying at me. Close it. The man sitting against the headboard had injuries on his face, his lips bruised purple and blue. Most importantly, his eyes were unfocused. Blind. I picked up the pillow from the floor. You can't see anyway. Does it matter if the curtains are open or closed? And don't forget, I'm the owner here, while you are just a pitiful little thing I picked up off the street. His face tightened. He clenched his fists like he could jump off the bed and beat me up at any second. If he weren't injured, as an S-level alpha, this would have been effortless for him. But with his eyes gone and a limp, even getting out of bed was extremely difficult without treatment. 2. I found him a while back when I went to pay respects to my mother. On the way back, I picked him up. He was covered in mud and blood, completely unrecognizable, but the leaking alpha pheromones made me stop. I had someone clean his face, then looked at him carefully. Finally, we carried him into my car. I thought he'd be grateful to his savior, at the very least, thank someone. But no. The first thing he did upon waking was try to run, even injuring the security guard at my villa with his weak body. Clearly, this person was extraordinary. At least physically, he was impressive. So, his ability to father a child shouldn't be bad either, right? What are you looking at? He tilted his head slightly toward me. I froze. Even blind, he knew I was looking at him. His observational skills were impressive. Just looking at how handsome you are. His brows furrowed slightly, as if my casual words irritated him. Promiscuous. I blinked. Was he some monk who ran away from a temple? Calling this promiscuous? Then what would he call an omega stuffing their underwear into an alpha's pocket? He'd probably call the police if he saw that. I ignored him and walked over with the tray, which held simple gauze and first aid medicine. Since waking, he had refused to see a doctor. Sending him to a hospital? He refused. Before he woke, someone had cleaned him up a little, but without proper treatment, he would remain a blind, crippled man forever. 3. I approached his bed with the tray and patted his leg. His expression didn't change. Incredible tolerance. But when I reached for his hand, he jerked it away sharply. Don't touch me. He flung my hand aside like a man being taken advantage of. Yes, you're not promiscuous. But then why are you spreading your pheromones on the street? Compared to my actions, yours are far worse. Pheromones are more effective than words in this society. And an alpha's pheromones can easily trigger an uncontrollable rut in an omega. That's extreme. His expression darkened immediately, like a monk waking up to find his innocence lost. That reminded me of something. I asked, "You're not really a monk from a temple, are you?" If he was, I couldn't do anything underhanded. I'd have to send him back. I'm not. Good. That's a relief. Your leg, don't you want it healed? You refuse a doctor at home, you refuse a hospital. What exactly do you want? To stay crippled? Such a handsome face. Being crippled would ruin it. This time, he didn't retort verbally. Instead, he acted. He turned toward me, and although our eyes didn't meet, I felt like he could see me. His voice was a little hoarse, but his presence was overwhelmingly intense. What exactly do you want? 4. What did I want? Half a month ago, while I was out having fun, my grandfather urgently called me back. He issued a final ultimatum: either bring back an alpha or bring back a child. Otherwise, my allowance would be cut, and he'd lock me back in the old family estate to obediently accept whatever arranged matchmaking he had in mind. The first option? Not even worth thinking about. Me getting married? Only if the sun rose in the west. So the only choice left was the second one. A child. Simple enough. Just find someone to father one. But I couldn't pick someone within the circle. Too many complications later. Outside the circle, everyone I could find was mediocre. Of course, I wanted someone with good genes to have a child with. Half a month of searching yielded nothing. I thought it was going to fail. Then, after paying respects to my mother, I came across an S-level alpha. Though nothing was settled yet, at least there was hope. Can you give me everything I want? I looked at him expectantly. A lifesaver deserves generosity, right? If he refused, I'd just toss him out. Let him fend for himself. No. My smile faded. Then why are you asking? You go first. Go first. Who did he think he was? I thought for a moment. Well, I'd have to tell him eventually anyway. I wasn't ambitious, but I also wouldn't force anyone. If he didn't want to. I want you to sleep with me. You know, the verb kind. Don't refuse me, you don't have the right to. If he didn't want to, then I'd just take charge. As I said it, his face flushed deep red. He coughed twice before pointing at me, his tone scolding. Can you have some self-respect? 5. Self-respect? I hadn't said I was going to sleep with him right now. I needed him to get better first. I had to take him to a doctor, make sure everything was fine before I could safely have a child. If something went wrong and the baby was unhealthy, who would I complain to? This is my only request. If you agree, you stay. If not, I'll have you tossed out right now. Deal with yourself. I got up, thinking I didn't need to treat his injuries any further, but he reached out and grabbed my hand. Let me think about it. I smiled. Almost guaranteed. What about your leg? Still going to get it treated? He nodded. I turned to call the family doctor. Since he wouldn't go to a hospital, I could only do some basic treatment at home. Luckily, his leg wasn't severely injured, and his body was strong. With some rest, it would heal. The eyes were the bigger issue, but he didn't seem to care. If he didn't care, why should I? After sending the doctor off, I prepared to visit the old family estate. At least I needed to tell my grandfather that I had plans, to stop him from trying to set me up. But as soon as I arrived, the villa called. The man was in a rage, no one could get near him. I had to go back to check. Hanging up, I saw my grandfather giving me a curious look. 6. Trying to eavesdrop, old man. Grandfather, caught, remained completely calm. What's there to hear? Your task now is to obediently bring someone back. I don't care about their background, I can accept it. Don't hold your breath. By the time I bring someone back, the opportunity will be gone. I spoke while putting on my clothes. There's business at home, I'll come see you later. Anthony, why let an elder's matters weigh you down? I didn't answer. Once in the car, a bitter smile tugged at my lips. If it were only that easy to let go. I collected myself and drove back, curious to see what trouble he'd stirred up. Didn't he just agree to treatment? How was he causing a fuss again? Back at the villa, 2 staff members came out as I arrived. What happened? I brought food to him, but he didn't eat it. He knocked it over and almost attacked us, so we backed off. I groaned. Such a bad temper. Would the child inherit this? Something to think about. I nodded, then headed upstairs. The room smelled faintly of food, not pleasant, so I went straight to the window and opened it to air it out. He was still leaning against the headboard, no different from before. Speak, what's the fuss about? He pursed his lips, silent, face scowling like a thug. Normally, I wouldn't touch someone like this. 7. Talk. I reached out to touch his shoulder. He turned his head away, refusing to respond. Ha! Getting stubborn, ha! Talk, or I'll kiss you. Surprised and confused, he glanced at me. The contrast with his hollow eyes was striking. Still silent, I leaned in and pressed my lips firmly to his. His eyes widened instantly, and his face turned red at lightning speed. Covering his mouth, his muscular, handsome frame made him look oddly adorable. Can you be a little more proper? I told you, if you don't speak, I'll kiss you. You chose not to speak. I acted like it was entirely his fault. So, tell me, why the fuss? He moved toward the other side of the bed, like he feared another sudden attack. Sigh. Was I really that kind of person? Someone touched me. Not you. When they brought the food, someone touched me. I paused, then laughed. So it was about being groped. So innocent. I was just being self-respecting. His face and neck flushed, even with the wounds, his handsome features were undeniable. The scars even added a hint of wildness. Most villa staff were Omega or Beta. Seems someone else had the same eye as me, interested in the same prey. But he hadn't even been touched yet, and he already wanted to strike? A little disrespectful, don't you think? Wait here, I'll help you get revenge. I went downstairs, called the butler, and let go of all the extra staff. Only the cook and the butler remained. 8. There really wasn't a need for so many staff anyway. After finishing, I went back upstairs. I helped you get revenge. How do I rate? I brought another bowl of food over and sat by his bed. He'd calmed down, though still cold and distant as usual. Don't do that again. Do what? Just randomly kissing me. Ha, as if I hadn't thought about it. After a week together, I finally pried his name out of him. Mateo. A familiar name, though I couldn't place where I'd heard it. But that didn't matter. The important thing was that Mateo's body was slowly recovering. He still walked awkwardly, but daily activities were no problem. Anthony, How did you know it was me? I walked in from the doorway. He was sitting in the chair, lost in thought. Your scent drifted over. I blinked. What scent could I have? Your pheromones, camellia scented. Ah, his rut was approaching, so some scent was leaking out. I sat across from Mateo, placing my hand on his. My heat is coming soon. How do you feel about that? Mateo tried to pull his hand back, but I gripped it tightly. I had been hinting at this for some time, but he, using his blindness as an excuse, acted oblivious. Ha! Blind or pretending, I could tell the difference. What do you mean? Since your heat is coming, we should keep our distance for a while. Mateo jerked his hand away and made an excuse to slip out. I snorted. Second thoughts. Looks like I'd have to take matters into my own hands. 9. Even though I had a plan in mind, I still didn't want to force him. A forced fruit isn't sweet, I understood that. But what frustrated me was that, after I stated my intentions, Mateo retreated into his shell like a turtle. Blind as he was, his sensitivity when avoiding me wasn't dulled at all. Even approaching him required complete surprise. I almost wanted to tie him to the bed at night, finish the task, and go our separate ways. I wasn't certain about Mateo's identity, but I could feel someone was looking for him. Several times they came near us, but our precautions kept him safe. So this plan needed to be executed carefully, to avoid accidents. Otherwise, I'd lose both my person and my effort. The hardships I endured recently were nothing compared to that. Luckily, fate seemed to favor me. My heat hadn't arrived yet, but Mateo's rut came first. I didn't plan to take advantage of his rut, it was mainly from my friend's warnings. An alpha's rut is terrifying, especially an S-level alpha. For my own body, I wanted to avoid it. 10. But plans rarely survive first contact with opportunity. It landed right in front of me, I couldn't refuse. Plus, he'd been avoiding me for a long time. When the butler informed me that Mateo's rut had begun, I immediately rushed back. The moment I stepped into the villa, the alpha's pheromones swept over me. I nearly lost my balance. The beta butler wasn't affected. Sir has locked himself in the room. Should we bring the suppressants up? I picked up the tray of suppressants and walked up the stairs. The closer I got, the stronger the pheromone scent became. My head started to spin. My body even heated up. Though my heat was still a little away, Mateo's pheromones were drawing it out. Mateo, open the door. I knocked gently, but no answer. His hoarse voice came from behind the door. Go. Leave the suppressants. Could I really let him slip away under my nose? Open the door. I'll bring the suppressants to you. I promise I won't do anything else. It sounded like I was the villain. Well, given the circumstances, I probably was. Mateo seemed genuinely affected by pheromones. Normally, he'd notice such an obvious ploy, but this time he obediently opened the door. He seemed restless from the lack of an omega's pheromones. Yet when he caught my scent, he instinctively recoiled. My expression darkened. 11. So he really hated my pheromones? Put it down. You can leave now. Door open. I wasn't listening to him. I tossed the tray to the floor and pressed against Mateo's chest as I stepped in. Once inside, I closed the door. No longer suppressing my omega pheromones, camellia and strong mint mingled, creating an even more intoxicating scent. Mateo didn't accept it immediately. He covered his nose and leaned back. Don't come near me. I leisurely watched him lose control. I couldn't tell what he did for a living, but I could feel he was dangerous, adept at hiding secrets. I hadn't found a single lead on him yet. Good, less knowledge now meant fewer complications later. Why not? Do you really hate me that much? Don't forget, I saved your life. I grabbed Mateo's clothing, stopping him from retreating. Blind as he was, he seemed especially pitiful now. But his overpowering pheromones reminded me, he wasn't some helpless little thing. No, not now, you might get hurt. Mateo reached for my hand, but I slapped it away and pressed my lips to his. Then be gentle. An alpha in rut and an omega in heat, nature itself was about to ignite. Once it started, there was no turning back. Mateo's pheromones were so strong, they robbed all ability to think. 12. Even though he couldn't see, he was incredibly precise in his actions. I had thought it would just be a couple of attempts, but I had seriously underestimated the intensity of an S-level alpha's rut. 3 whole days. 3 days. The only interruption was when the butler brought food. I didn't step out of the room even once. The glands at the back of my neck were swollen and sore. Mateo's fingers traced them lightly, but it barely helped. You're too much. I hugged the blanket and tried to roll away, but the next second he pulled me back into his arms. Wrong, I won't do it again next time. Next time. He better get it right on the first try, or it would all be wasted. After sneaking out of Mateo's bedroom, I left the villa immediately. I couldn't stay any longer. I found some excuse to stay outside for half a month, thinking it would be about time for a checkup. Then I booked a doctor. Congratulations, you're pregnant. I stared at the test results, on the verge of tears. Finally. I'd been working toward this with him for half a year, and now it was mine. That villa, I'd never go back. I told the butler and moved back to the old estate. No place was as comfortable as home. And, to some extent, I was worried Matteo might find me, so the old estate was safer. Half a month later, I got a message from the butler. Matteo had left without any notice. I was a bit concerned, but thinking back, ever since I'd rescued him, he'd been at the villa. He had never seen me properly, and I hadn't even told him my real name. So even if his sight had recovered, he couldn't find me. Right after I reassured myself, a message popped up on my phone from an unknown number. Hide well, baby, don't let me catch you, or, I'll take you. 13. Seeing the message, my heart skipped, but I calmly swiped left to delete it. Ha! Cure your eyesight first, then talk. Even if he could see now, he still wouldn't be able to find me. Definitely not. Pregnancy was a bit tough, but my family took good care of me. Even without an alpha's comfort, life was fairly comfortable. Sometimes at night, mood swings made things hard. I'd think, did I really have to suffer this? If I'd held my ground with Grandpa a little longer, it might not have come to this. It wasn't like having a child was required to inherit the family fortune. Still, by morning, I was cheerful again. During this period, I discovered something frustrating. Matteo had permanently marked me. Those 3 days, I had no idea when he did it. I only noticed the discomfort in my glands at the time. I only realized the permanent mark during a checkup. I wanted to remove it, but it was major surgery, and being pregnant, it wasn't possible. I'd have to wait until after the pregnancy, once my body was recovered. At least there would be no heat during pregnancy, a small relief. Grandpa asked about Matteo several times, since he was technically the father. But each time, I dodged the question. After being asked too many times, I just said the father had died. My lover, who I'd been taking care of, had died accidentally. 14. I originally planned to bring him to see you. After all, you said either bring a man back or a child. I can't bring the man, but I did bring the child. I sat on the lounge chair, looking at the garden. Then I glanced at Grandpa. Really, do you think I'd lie? I'm not that type. Don't worry. He wasn't a big shot anyway, very healthy, so the baby will be fine. And he was an S-level alpha. Grandpa's expression changed slightly. He sat beside me. Really? S-level alphas aren't common. If true, his status must be unusual. You're not joking, right? Though Grandpa hit close to the truth, I couldn't admit it. If I did, tomorrow he'd drag me off to find Matteo. Matteo, fun for a while, sure, but I couldn't develop anything serious with him. I couldn't handle his personality. Really like a rock in a toilet, stinky and hard. If I had no ulterior motives, could I have handled him for half a year? Forget it. And he wasn't gentle in bed either. Who'd want to get involved with him? Not all S-level alphas are high-status people. Don't overthink it. He's gone now, and even if he were extraordinary, so what? 15. Grandpa seemed to agree. Alright, as long as you're happy. I was content with this life. Money, a child, and no man bothering me. Once the pregnancy was over and the permanent mark removed, everything would be perfect. Then I could go find some alpha I liked and play around. The thought made me giddy, unaware that someone was already able to find me. Even before I left, all my information had reached his hands. Don't pick up men on the street. That warning was right. After 10 months, I gave birth to a daughter, a beautiful one, prettier than any other child. Doctors and nurses crowded around to see her. Watching my smiling daughter in someone's arms, I couldn't help but smile myself. See, having a handsome partner matters. At least the baby looks good. Even inheriting just some of both our traits, she stood out among other babies. Soon, I discharged from the hospital with my daughter. Before leaving, I checked with the doctor about when the permanent mark removal surgery could be done. It would take a long time, but I'd recover first before dealing with it. Looks like Bella's dad was really handsome. That nose and those eyes, not like yours, but very pretty. Grandpa looked at Bella, then at me. Hearing his words, I thought of Matteo, biting my lip and smiling. Yeah, he was good looking. Otherwise, why would I have picked him? Ha ha ha, true. During her full-month celebration, we'll make it really nice. 16. That wasn't something I needed to worry about. After all, I just needed to attend the event. Still, as the full-month celebration approached, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in my chest. I wondered if there was some problem with the family business. But after asking Grandpa, I learned that the company was not only fine, it had partnered with a major firm in Jing City and was growing even stronger. Still, I had a lingering sense that something was about to happen, though I couldn't figure out what. So I focused on my daughter instead. Bella naturally carried my surname. She was just a month old, and she was ridiculously beautiful. Anyone who saw her couldn't stop commenting on how pretty she was. Seeing Bella, I had no regrets about spending half a year coaxing Matteo. If I had picked some other man to have a child with, who knew how the baby would have turned out? The full-month celebration invited a lot of people, mostly business partners and family contacts. Grandpa was determined to make it a big event, so nearly everyone who could attend was invited. Before the banquet, I went out to take a look and hardly recognized anyone. Almost everyone was a business associate. My circle of friends had always been small anyway. After a quick glance, I was ready to go back. But then I felt a gaze from a corner that I couldn't ignore. I looked, but no one seemed to be watching me. Had I been too tired recently and imagined it? Maybe. I dismissed the thought and returned to the rest room to wait for the banquet to begin. Naturally, a few words were expected on stage. I hadn't prepared anything, but I had to show my face. 17. Holding Bella as I went on stage, I felt happy. But the moment I stood still and glanced down, my entire body froze. A familiar yet unfamiliar figure stood at the edge. His tall stature and outstanding presence made him impossible to ignore. Matteo. His eyesight had fully recovered. His gaze landed directly on me, like a hand tightening around my throat. Breathing became a little difficult, but I knew he couldn't recognize me. He had never seen me properly before and didn't even know my name. He definitely wouldn't recognize me. I forced myself to remain calm, holding Bella, and avoided looking at him. But his gaze was overwhelmingly aggressive. Even without making eye contact, it felt like he wanted to strip me bare. Terrifying. I moved closer to Grandpa. Grandpa, I'll take Bella back first. She's getting sleepy. Alright, go ahead. I wanted to glance at Matteo to see if he was still there, but I feared looking too much might give me away. So I forced myself not to look and carried Bella off stage toward the restroom. Unexpectedly, I heard footsteps behind me in the corridor. They weren't fast, just steady, like someone taking a casual stroll. But I couldn't shake the feeling that these steps were coming for me, or for Bella. 18. I quickened my pace, nearly wanting to run. But no matter what I did, the person behind only drew closer. Until, long time no see. Matteo. Of course, it was him. His tone was different from before, laced with a dangerous edge. You, who are you? I tightened my hold on Bella, not daring to meet his gaze. I feared that even a glance might reveal me. Matteo, however, wasn't about to let me off easily. He stepped in front of me, his long legs gradually filling my view. You don't recognize me, yet you're afraid to look. What did I do to make you so scared? Damn it, didn't he know what he'd done himself? I lifted my head to look at him, keeping my secret. The moment our eyes met, the teasing glint in his gaze confirmed it. I was caught. The next second, Matteo lifted Bella from my arms. I didn't even have time to resist. What are you doing? Give her back. Matteo held her gently, signaling me to stay quiet. Don't wake her. I bit my lip hard, my eyes reddening slightly. What exactly do you want? This is our daughter. His words weren't a question, they were a statement, as if he'd already decided this before arriving. She's not. She's just my daughter. She had always been mine alone. There was no connection between us, none at all. 19. Matteo didn't look pleased at my clarification. He looked down on me, warning in his eyes. The next second, his hand gripped my neck, pressing me against the wall. He didn't need much force, but I couldn't break free. I felt incredibly weak. So, in front of an S-level alpha, are omegas really this powerless? Let go of me. He leaned close, his breath brushing my face, carrying the familiar scent of mint. Then he tilted his head and bit my cheek. Such a brazen move left me staring wide-eyed. This was the same man who used to fly into a rage over minor touches. Are you crazy? You pervert. Matteo curved his lips. Pervert? I'm just returning what you did to me back then. Nonsense. When did I ever bite him? This was pure slander. Not true. I barely know you. Stop, or I'll call for help. Matteo laughed softly. Go ahead. Might as well let everyone know who the father is. I sighed, speechless. I already said it. This child has nothing to do with you, and I have no connection to you. Today, this is the first time we've met, but I don't think I've told you my name, or did you read my mind? Ah, I'd forgotten that part. The sly fox. I had underestimated Matteo. Couldn't I just know? 20. I turned my head to avoid Matteo's approach, my tone cold. I really didn't want any contact with him. Wow, you're really clever, he said, the sarcasm dripping from his words. Let go of me. Still pretending you don't know me? Matteo had clearly been taking care of himself lately. His injuries had healed, and his whole demeanor seemed sharper, more alive. I never knew you. Pretending doesn't even come into it. I didn't want much to do with him. After all, he had no proof. If I insisted that it wasn't me back then, even if he knew it was, what could he do? He couldn't just drag me back. While I was mulling over all this, Mateo suddenly leaned in and pressed a kiss to the gland at the back of my neck. Baby, do you know how I've survived this time without your scent during my sensitivity period? And now you still pretend you don't know me? Bold move. His alpha voice carried a dangerous, sensual edge. I felt my ears heat up at the sound. As an educated adult, I knew how these things worked. After a permanent mark, not only does an omega need the alpha's scent for comfort, the alpha also needs their omega during sensitivity. I was pregnant, so I didn't need it, but Mateo wasn't. So, all this time, he had probably been relying on inhibitors to cope. What does that have to do with me? Did I ask you to permanently mark me? I hadn't settled that score with him yet. Still pretending you don't know me? Mateo chuckled lightly and started to straighten up. Suddenly, the sound of cameras clicking came from a distance. We both looked over. The corridor was no longer empty. Oh, looks like this time you'll have to admit it. 21. I couldn't help but wonder if the reporters had been arranged by Mateo, but that seemed unlikely. We had invited a few journalists ourselves. Still, why were they all in the corridor? Moments ago, it had been empty. Even more absurd, while I was frozen in shock, Mateo looked at the camera, holding Bella and posing as if it were natural. I couldn't even. Grandpa eventually arrived and dispersed everyone. I had wanted to leave with Bella, but I was stopped by Grandpa. I glared at Mateo. We'll settle this later. I'll be waiting, he said calmly. Mateo wasn't part of our family. No matter how Grandpa scolded, it wouldn't affect him, only me. Is the child really his? You had a child with him? He's the boyfriend you said died? Yes, the child was his. But he wasn't my boyfriend, and he wasn't dead. At this point, pretending didn't make much sense, so I admitted it. How was I supposed to know? I picked someone off the street, and it happened to be him. He was barely alive, didn't seem like someone of status at all. What I said was true. Mateo had looked close to death, his scent uncontrollable. He was in bad shape. Grandpa looked at me, exasperated. Do you even know who he is? No, I didn't, but I could tell he wasn't simple. At least compared to people like us who just did business, he was more than that. He's from Jing City. No wonder he chose to work with us out of so many options. Makes sense now. I reassured Grandpa, it's okay. I saved him, and having a child was part of the deal between us. He's a big shot, he can't go back on his word. Grandpa sighed helplessly. Let's hope so. You should stay home and not go out. If he comes, don't meet him. I'll talk to him. I had no intention of negotiating with Mateo. There was nothing to discuss between us. Everything that could be said had already been said. Okay, Grandpa. I thought things would calm down for a while, but the next day I was trending online. Not because of me, but because of Mateo. That's when I realized how wealthy he really was. Our family couldn't compare. I felt uneasy, even a little panicked. Was he really going to cling to me? I looked quietly at Bella. Poor baby, she had no idea her tricky dad might try to take her. I wouldn't allow that. Mateo better not have bad intentions. That evening, things got even more chaotic online. Mateo's company's official account actually commented under a gossip post. Yes, this is our CEO's child. Before, everyone had been guessing. Now it was confirmed. I felt my world go black. What exactly was he trying to do? Before I could figure it out, Mateo gave me the answer. He came with a marriage proposal. No warning, no prior notice, just arrived with the proposal. When the staff told me, I froze. I entrusted Bella to the nanny, then cautiously moved to a position where I could observe the scene. Mateo sat across from Grandpa. Even from a distance, I sensed a rare humility in him. He wasn't like this in front of me. Though I couldn't hear clearly, I didn't need to. Grandpa was surely refusing. Anthony, what happened between you doesn't matter now. It's just a child. You probably have plenty of options if you wanted one, Grandpa said. I only want this child. Nothing else, Mateo said firmly. Perfect. That was exactly his personality. But let me make this clear. You cannot enter our house. You don't meet our standards. We only want Anthony to live a normal life with a regular person. Mateo wasn't in my consideration at all. I'll make it clear too. Either marry me, or I take the child. Grandpa's face darkened at Mateo's authoritative tone, but Mateo didn't show any sign of backing down. I thought about stepping in to teach him a lesson, but before I could, Grandpa called the bodyguards to escort Mateo out. I expected him to resist, but surprisingly, he left on his own. 24. Only, he didn't take any of the things he brought with him. After everyone left, I went downstairs. I casually looked at the items Mateo had brought, and I was honestly stunned. one thing after another, each more expensive than the last. Everything was flashy and impressive, enough to make anyone's eyes widen. Useless. Haven't you seen these things before? Grandpa asked. I've never seen anything this expensive, I replied. Look at who you've gotten yourself involved with. So tell me, am I giving you to him, or Bella? I slouched on the sofa casually. I'm giving neither. He's just anxious now. In time, he'll meet someone else, and then he won't think about me. I don't care. Grandpa looked at me, half believing. Really? Of course, it was a lie. The moment Mateo's bodyguards kidnapped me, I wished I could have slapped my own overconfidence into oblivion. Feeling so self-assured, and now, I was literally tied up. Though the treatment was good, the freedom was gone. Chains were around my ankles. A captivity play. Mateo was really getting creative. Stop struggling. You can't get out. Mateo's voice echoed in the room, and I realized too late that he was already standing by the door. I had been too focused on the chains to notice. Let me go. Don't even think about it. He closed the door, walked in, and sat in the chair across from me. His long legs stretched in every direction, impossible not to notice. Why are you running? Because I've already achieved my goal. I told you from the start, I saved you for a reason. You agreed back then. So what's all this now? 25. I only agreed to sleep with you. I didn't agree to give you a child. Perfect. He was playing word games. I gave up trying. Don't waste your time on me. You're not my type. I was with you because I didn't know you, and purely because you were attractive. I just wanted a good-looking child. I paused, staring directly at Mateo. The words were cruel and merciless. If I had known what kind of person you were, I wouldn't have picked you up off the street that day. Mateo said nothing. Or rather, he hadn't said much since entering, but his gaze was impossible to ignore. It made my heart race. Dangerous. Warning. Slowly, Mateo curved his lips into a cruel, dark smile. Really? Too late. You can't shake me off. Baby, accept your fate. I'm not accepting any fate from him. This is a law-abiding society. I still trust that he can't trap me forever. And Grandpa would notice my disappearance quickly enough. Then they'd come for me. Yes, you think they'll come for you? You really underestimate my methods. I froze, then reacted, trying to lunge at him, but the chains tangled around my feet. I nearly fell, but Mateo caught me effortlessly in his arms, looking down at me in his hold, his eyes teasing. So quick to throw yourself into my arms. I'm not throwing myself. What you're doing is illegal. You ran, why would I care about legality? 26. Mateo was a lunatic. A complete madman. I refused to let him in my bed, yet he ignored me entirely, climbing into my bed at night, not just to lie down, but to hold me. You liked being held like this before, didn't you? When did I ever sleep with you before? Those 3 days, you liked it. Damn, those 3 days were only because I had no energy to go back to my own bed. Now he had real leverage. Mateo's treatment of me gave me a headache. I couldn't figure out how to make him leave me alone. He wouldn't let me out, yet he was gentle with me, even taking care of meals himself. The more he was like this, the more I wanted to lose my mind. Soft, hard, everything. Tried everything. Nothing worked. I felt myself nearing madness. But I didn't go mad. Instead, my first sensitivity period after pregnancy hit. Violent. I struggled, keeping Mateo away. The chains cut into my ankles, leaving raw, bloody wounds. Terrifying. Anthony, do you hate me that much? Mateo, having tried everything, finally realized the truth. He sagged, shoulders collapsing, spine curved. I was being tormented by my period, yet I still refused to yield. I told you, there's no future between us. The room filled quickly with camellia scent, but it was repeatedly suppressed. Minty alpha pheromones peeked out, only to be blocked by my intense reaction. 27. Mateo, if you don't want to see me die here today, give me the inhibitor, I demanded. He moved, but not with an inhibitor. This is my pheromone extract. You can't use the inhibitor now, it would harm your body. Use this. I didn't reach for it, watching him warily. I'll let you go. Since you hate me so much, forcing you won't work. Anthony, I'm not that desperate. I don't need you. Mateo left. The extract worked well. I calmed down shortly after. Soon, someone came to take me home. Grandpa looked at me, checked for injuries, but didn't ask much. I had no energy and barely ate before heading upstairs to sleep. But in my dreams, I wasn't at peace. The past 6 months kept replaying in my mind. Why couldn't I accept Mateo? Perhaps because I feared marriage. Feared having someone constantly by my side. Feared the arguments that might come. My parents had been in love at first, but over time, endless fights ended terribly. Repeatedly. neither willing to let go, even when the love was gone. I grew up amid their endless disputes and clashes, until one of them paid the ultimate price to end it all. I never understood why my mother, even when no longer in love, couldn't let herself, or anyone else, go, and why she tried so desperately, in such extreme ways, to reclaim his heart. 28. I didn't know if I might become another version of my mother, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to give myself that possibility. Maybe that's part of why I've avoided marriage. I woke up groggily, checked on Bella, and then went out to the garden. I was lost in thought when Grandpa came over and sat beside me. Not happy? He asked. No. Then it must be uncertainty about the future. I stayed silent. I kept thinking about how impulsive I had been over a year ago. Do you regret having Bella? I moved slightly. Of course not. Then is it regretting what happened with Mateo? Anthony, I told you before, don't force the mistakes of your elders onto yourself. I regret not intervening when I saw your parents' conflicts, not separating them decisively. But you have to understand, in matters of love, the final choice is always with the people involved. Even if I had forced them to divorce, it wouldn't erase their connection completely. Your parents are your parents, you are you. Don't give up your happiness because of the mistakes of others. I lowered my head, unsure of what I truly wanted. For a long time, I had assumed I would never marry or have a partner. So when Grandpa gave me the choice, I chose to have the child. But now, the reality suggested maybe I wasn't as resolute as I thought. Maybe I had already begun to care. Yet the past kept tugging at me, making it impossible to make a clear decision. 29. Take your time. One day, you'll find the outcome you want. What if it's too late? As long as there is that one day, it's not too late, he replied. I returned to my room and had the nanny bring Bella. The little girl had grown a bit more, becoming even more beautiful, and increasingly resembling Mateo. Mateo still sent someone over, just to deliver his pheromone extract. I intended to refuse. Once my body was ready, I planned to go straight for the procedure. But before I could speak, his subordinate said, once you finish, you can message us, and we'll send it by courier. Why by courier? The CEO will be returning to the capital soon. The headquarters requires his presence. After the person left, I realized Mateo was really leaving. Perhaps he was letting go. Or perhaps he was truly disappointed. After all, my words back then had been harsh. Any self-respecting person would struggle with such treatment. As I stood there lost in thought, Bella, lying on the bed, grabbed my hand and smiled sweetly. Maybe, I really should try harder. I couldn't stay trapped in the past forever. Before leaving, Mateo had someone deliver a card, Bella's support fund. I accepted it. After all, it was what he should provide. Life returned to normal after he left, but something felt missing. The scars from the chains had healed, though faintly. A subtle reminder remained, even after applying scar treatment. 30. 6 months later, I traveled to the capital alone with Bella. Before leaving, Grandpa hugged me. Go. I support all your decisions. Just remember to come home. Okay. The trip was quick, but arriving at Mateo's company proved tricky. No one there recognized us. Even when I said, holding Bella, this is your CEO's child, no one believed me. They probably thought we were crazy. While I hesitated at the front desk, the elevator opened, and a crowd poured out. I stepped back to give way and thought about how to contact Mateo. Suddenly, Bella in my arms moved. The next moment, she shouted a fuzzy, "Daddy," into the crowd. I was about to scold her for shouting, when Mateo emerged from the crowd. He hurried over and stood before me. He looked thinner, maybe from work or something else. I had been ready to tell him my thoughts, but now, seeing him, I couldn't get a single word out. You're here in the capital? I shook my head while holding Bella. No, we came to find you, I said with a smile. Then I placed Bella in Mateo's arms. Bella said she missed her daddy. Mateo brought us back to his home. Originally, I thought we'd go to his office, but Bella surprised him, so he had to go home with her to settle things first. I had expected to buy some baby supplies, but arriving at Mateo's house made me realize I'd overthought it. 31. His house had everything. Compared to my place, it was beyond impressive. Watching him handle Bella with a mix of ease and unfamiliarity as he changed her diaper, I felt a twinge of curiosity. You learned this? I asked. Yeah, after I found out you had a child, I got someone to teach me. Didn't think I'd actually get to use it. I glanced around the room. And all this stuff, you prepared for Bella too? Yeah, aren't you worried it won't get used? Isn't it being used now? I couldn't help but smile. He really seemed confident in himself. He must have anticipated I'd come back. He finished changing Bella, fed her, and even soothed her to sleep. I didn't lift a finger, just watched him handle everything. Once he put her back in the bedroom, I sat on the sofa, waiting for him to come out. Matteo didn't settle next to me, but instead sat a little distance away. I didn't look at him, speaking as if to myself. You know why I don't want to marry? Because of my parents. Their marriage seriously shaped my view on relationships. I fear starting one, and I fear the mess that comes after marriage. I don't want to watch two people gradually lose love and end up resenting each other. Matteo stood and sat beside me. But how can you be sure what our outcome will be? There are so many couples whose love lasts. Anthony, you should trust yourself, and trust me. I looked up at him and smiled. I already trust you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come. Matteo looked a little taken aback. I winked at him. Using retreat to advance, you're pretty good at that. 32. He said he let go, yet he still had people watching secretly. He probably thought I wouldn't notice, but it was obvious. Matteo shook his head with a chuckle. You caught me. I gazed at his eyes, feeling like I was confessing how much I'd missed him. Turns out, I missed him even more than I realized. Matteo, if we're together, we can't just stay in the capital. I need to go back to be with Grandpa. Matteo reached out and held me. The scent of his alpha pheromones filled my senses again, calming me completely. Okay, the company's focus is already shifting. In a little while, I'll go back with you. Matteo, do you hate me? No. I hate myself for not being by your side while you were pregnant. I love you. What a coincidence. I love you too.